Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are tuning in to us today. Welcome to the fifth and final workshop of the AI Video Hackathon. Today we have Isaac from Zora, who will be giving us his workshop on imagining generative media on Zora. So I'm going to now invite him up to the stage and he'll be giving his workshop.
Before I get started, I just wanted to say hi to everyone. My name is Isaac. I work at Zora across developer experience, developer products, as well as ecosystem. More broadly, I've been with Zora since May 2022. I'm very excited to be talking to everyone about why it's so rewarding to build generative media experiences on-chain using the Zora protocol. So just to begin, what exactly is Zora? Zora, we're a new kind of social media where creators and collectors actually earn ETH for participating within the app, and that's through posting, and that's through collecting, that's through curating. You should definitely check out the app. If you haven't, that gives you a real good example of what you can actually build on top of the protocol that we have. So we've got a world-class minting protocol and SDKs. The really, really cool thing about building on Zora is that you get to plug into millions of dollars of rewards and a really strong distribution network from day one. So think about the cold start problem that many products or projects would be getting users to begin with. So building on top of the protocol using our SDKs, that means you actually everything that your creators or your users create via your app, if that is minted on the Zora protocol, that gets fed back to the main Zora feed or the main Zora surface area. And that means you're able to bypass the cold start problem and plug into a distribution and rewards model from the get-go. And I'll be talking a little bit more around what I mean by a rewards model. And the last piece that makes up Zora is actually the Zora network L2 chain. It's a OP stack L2 chain that's dedicated to bringing on-chain media and helping empower creators on-chain. Cool. Some of the teams that are actually building on Zora include Interface, Surreal, which is an amazing app that actually lets creators and users create on a very well-designed UX, well-designed app, and that's all happening behind. What's powering that experience is actually Zora protocol. You've got Dracula as well, so they're kind of like an on-chain TikTok. They've got creators who have millions of followers on Web2 socials. When you create and post on Dracula, for example, like you're actually also posting to the Zora protocol, and that gets shown on the feed. And this is Daylight, which is an on-chain API for recommending the best mints or the most fun things to do on-chain. And they actually index a lot of the Zora mints and surfacing that to many of the other apps. And SoundCamp, last but not least, you have an online on-chain music client where instead of submitting your work onto SoundCloud, you're actually posting your music and work on SoundCamp, and that's actually also once again on the Zora protocol. Some really other cool examples of apps on Zora would be June dashboard actually. So June right now, if you look at June, you can actually mint dashboards, and when you mint dashboards, that's actually also on the Zora protocol. So just wanted to share the different kinds of examples and use cases when it comes to minting and Zora and how the Zora protocol actually powers those experiences. As I said, proven distribution and business model. So far, we have distributed $25 million worth of creator rewards, and that's through the main Zora app, as well as third-party Zora clients. On a monthly basis, we have about 300,000 transacting users across our protocol, across all the chains that we're deployed on. We also regularly get more than 1 million mints every single month on the Zora protocol. So what kinds of companies are actually minting on Zora? When I say minting, I mean celebrating their launches, dropping an amazingly produced just content in general. So you have teams like Azuki, they've run their Mizuki art contest on Zora. They've also dropped a one-of-a-kind Arbitrum Mizuki mint, where they were able to gather about 40 ETH in creator earnings, which they donated to the Arbitrum Foundation. Doodles, for example, they're actually one of the best examples of brands minting on Zora. So they actually currently have a shorts series that they post every 2 weeks on Zora, and even just right now, like a couple of hours ago, they posted one. It's already gone more than a few thousand mints. We've got Opepin or Jack Butcher that was on Zora as well. Eigenlayer actually also has commemorated some of their launches and announcements on Zora. Uniswap, of course, they've done that as well on Zora. So the slide here is just to show how brands are actually embracing minting as a way to engage with the communities. So tying that back to generative media theme that we're working on throughout this hackathon is how do we build new clients around generative media that these brands can actually leverage, and just making it so easy for them to do so. So just going to walk you through what I mean by protocol rewards for developers building on Zora. So there are two parts to this: create referral and mint referral. Why these things are actually so interesting is because you can think of a revenue sharing model in a Web 2 world. With that, some of the limitations is that you would need to strike up a contract with them, ensuring that everyone's on the same page, and there are a lot of like administrative stuff to get through with before you can actually build or like commit to a revenue sharing model. But with protocol rewards for clients, that's completely permissionless. So when you build on top of the Zora protocol, whether that's through the contracts directly or the SDKs, you earn two things: create referrals. So that's where every time a creator creates on your app and their posts get minted via your app, you earn a create referral. And then you also earn when collectors on your app collect those mints. So you get the ability to capture value for facilitating creation and minting on your app. So there's more documentation on that, which I'll get to in a bit. Like I said, we've got world-class developer tools, and we're one of the best minting protocols out there. Like, it makes it so easy to build on top of, and you get a very comprehensive suite of SDKs that let you build a fully featured minting app, especially within the generative media space. So you've got SDK, smart contracts, protocol rewards, and I'm sure you're on your laptop at the moment, so definitely check out docs.zora.co if you want to browse as I talk through the rest. So let's just go through SDKs very, very briefly. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 main parts of the SDK suite. So we've got the creator client, and that is the one that lets you build your creating experience. And then you've got the collector client, where you can actually build the minting experience. So you've got both sides, collectors and creators, and that's available for you to build easily using the SDKs. We've also got an SDK that lets you build metadata for your token as well as your collection. It's super comprehensive, super easy to follow. And the other one, it's also rewards withdrawal. We added this actually very recently. So prior to this, when your creators on your app, when they earn creator rewards, they would actually have to claim it either via the contract itself or on the Zora.co UI. So with this SDK, you can actually build that claiming feature directly into your app. So they've earned money by creating on your app. They can actually see the rewards that they've earned, and then they can claim it to their EOA. So it makes it, you have this complete loop of create, collect, and claiming rewards. The last piece, which is extremely, extremely exciting. So we recently released a new protocol upgrade where upon the conclusion of a primary mint, which I can go through in more depth in a little bit. So when that primary mint concludes, it actually kicks off a countdown, and then the mint, some of the rewards from the primary mint itself gets sent to Bootstrap liquidity on an on-chain secondary market on Uniswap. So what that means is primary mints will allow users to mint, obviously, but with secondary swaps and secondary market, that means users and collectors can still continue to buy after the primary mint concludes. Why this is a huge benefit is because we want to help creators continue capture the value for the work that they bring on chain. So it's not necessarily just about the primary mint, but what happens afterwards. So imagine if your mint gets collected 200 times on the primary mint phase, and then that launches the secondary market. And for some reason, that secondary market, it's technically an ERC20 market, that goes viral. And then from there, the creators actually earn 0.75% of the swap fee. More specifically, we call it the secondary royalties rewards. That means creators are actually earning for both primary mint as well as what happens on the secondary market. And the benefit of this for collectors, on the other hand, is the fact that if I've minted a bunch on primary mint and that goes up on the secondary market, then I get to capture value for being really early. So really good examples of this is actually taking Azuki's recent community art contest. Primary mint, it was 111 sparks, so that's by default. Every mint on Zora is 111 sparks. That means 000 ETH. On the secondary market, a lot of these Azuki community mints actually shot up by a few times. So some really good examples, some of them even shot up 20 times. So instead of 111 sparks, it went up to 1,011 sparks per mint. And that shows the power of really capturing the value for both creators and collectors on the secondary market. Cool. Moving on. Smart contracts. If you go to docs.zora.co, you've also got an entire section about how our contracts work. You're creating a contract, selling the tokens, minting tokens, setting permissions for the users on the contract. So you have things like admin, you have collaborators with different levels of permission so they can do different things with the collection and the token. For example, if I'm a collaborator, I'm able to change the metadata after it's, but then admins can choose to remove collaborators, for example. There are more details on the documentation website about this, but should be pretty straightforward in terms of what you need to know around the smart contracts that we have. So yeah, I just wanted to walk through this time sale strategy, which is the secondary market feature that we launched recently, just tying that back. Once again, 111 mint fee per mint, and then there is a primary mint threshold on Zora.co at the moment that is 200, but we're actually on the protocol level, on the contract level, you can set this to whatever you want it to be. So the way to set it is actually by setting a minimum market ETH. So that is a basic calculation of the market rewards and the amount of ETH that you want to launch it at. So say you want it to be 1,000 mints before the countdown gets kicked off, then it should be just 1,000 mint the value that you should be passing for that parameter should be 1,000 mint times the market ETH, which is, I need to check, it's in the next couple of slides, but it's very basic. That should be straightforward as well. And then the other part is actually this counter to secondary market. On Zora.co at the moment, it's 24 hours, but depending on the kind of experience that you're trying to build for your app, that can also be custom. So instead of 24 hours, it could be 3 days, 7 days, depending on how you want it. But we've seen 24 hours being urgent, but long enough that people want to mint more within that. They want to get in early at the lower mint fee before it potentially goes up in value on the secondary market. So really customizable in this sense, and really depends on the product decision that you're trying to make, depending based on the experience that you're trying to build. So cool. And the other thing around here is that, yeah, just wanted to talk about Zora Network in general. Like, Zora is actually, the Zora Network was launched about more than a year ago. The idea was to have it be built on the OP stack. It's run by Conduit for us. The idea behind it is actually to bring media on chain, to bring content on chain, to bring creators on chain. June, for example, have dubbed us as the cultural layer of Ethereum, and I think that's actually very a succinct way to explain what Zora Network is and why Zora Network is so important for bringing media on chain. So a majority of the Zora creators are on Zora Network. For example, on the app itself, the mobile app itself, all your posts would be on Zora Network. But when you collect within the app itself, we allow you to collect the post that you might see might be on Base, but we still allow you to collect it. That's because we've got some cross-chain minting working behind the scenes. But when you post on the app, by default, it's on the Zora Network. And creators love us. We work very closely with creators. We work very closely with collectors, and they understand that Zora Network has a very strong focus on bringing media on chain and art on chain, and therefore it's really established itself as the go-to chain for the experiences that they want. So how many other L2s the Zora protocol is on? The answer is yes. We're in Arbitrum. We're in Base. Obviously, we're in Optimism mainnet. We're in Blast as well. We see a good amount of mint also happening on Base. Arbitrum is primarily used by Azuki because they're aligned with that. And an OP mainnet and Blast, we see teams minting on them as well. So you have the option when you deploy, when you build on top of the Zora protocol, that you could just tap into these chains directly, and it's very straightforward. So I want to spend some time talking a little bit more about generative media on Zora. I think generative media is obviously still, I think there are lots to build on top of this particular space and media space on chain and online. I think it'd be cool to see generative media around things like around a meme launcher. Like, how easy would it be to say, for example, like have Reddit memes be the base, and then you could actually let users choose those as the base and enter a prompt to create new memes. And then how do you let them mint them directly from that generative flow? So that'd be really exciting. And then the other stuff that at Zora we really want to see is actually format specific. So if you look at Zora.co, we support a wide range of different kinds of media, different kinds of file formats. That's working really, really well. But we actually also really want to see how teams actually build format specific clients. So that could be, what if it's a YouTube specific version of Zora, and that caters towards the videos side of things? And obviously live streaming, what would that look like if you built that in conjunction with live peer on top of the protocol SDK? Like, does it mean you could mint the entire live stream itself, or would it be you minting clips within the live stream, and also music. We've seen clients like SongCamp, but we also want to see more different, just different kinds or more various kinds of clients tackling the music on-chain problem space. And yeah, and AI, obviously, generative media. I think there's a lot to work through, to work on. So many opportunities around that. What about writing? I think writing is a really cool one. Like, what would that look like if it's prompt-based writing, and then you can mint you can mint these essays built on top of that generative layer. So the other thing that's also really worth checking out is actually within the Zora app itself, we have a tool called the Canvas. So let's see if I can just share my screen really quickly. I'm just going to share this one. If you hit this button right here, you say create with Canvas. This is an example of a generative media feature that we have. So we have this baked. We have a few generative models actually baked into this. So for example, I'd be like, imagine a sunny day in New York City on a winter's day. And imagine and then that actually references, these are some of the models that we reference. So AI compute, FAL as well. The cool thing about this, if you notice, is that the creator earnings are automatically split to these models that help me with the prompting. So 10% goes to this, 10% goes to that. So that's actually a really cool example of like a generative media app where you could create new kinds of content that automatically splits the rewards to the models that you're actually using within your app. So if I choose to mint this, just hit post and then it gets minted. And then any sort of mints that come through afterwards, that will channel rewards to the wallet addresses here. So that's a cool example that you could probably iterate on top of. And just imagine, what if it's Canvas, but the entire app that you're building is actually just a Canvas feature UX itself. Okay, so NFT games, DeFi, NFT. I think NFT games would be interesting from a generative media standpoint. Like, could it be character assets that you help with, that you help creators create, and then have that be interoperable with some of the games? That's a potentially cool idea. And then there's also DeFi X NFT. So a really good example of that is obviously the Zora X Uniswap protocol extension, where you could wrap and unwrap our ERC 1155s to ERC 20s, depending on the mode that you want. So how do we push that a little bit further? How do you actually use this new primitive of on-chain secondary markets and really push generative media? Can we see a generation of generative content that's actually extremely valuable on the secondary market? Like, what would that look like, and how would you build that, for example? So content specific, even within generative media itself, you could have very specific kinds of content that you want to see. So I'm sure you've come across Instagram profiles or TikTok profiles where they do imagine Pokemon, but imagined as a country, or like food, but imagined as a country, for example, or like superheroes, but imagined as a country. So these are all themes that you can kind of build on top of. But the idea is that you just want to make it so easy for people to mint directly after generating these content. So I think two really good prompts to think about is like, what sort of content do creators want to create when it comes to generative media, and what sort of theme that you think would be fun? Because if I tie it back to the first point here, it's like it could be very specific around memes, around mooding, for example. Like, what sort of generative media would you build that? And then also another way, a really good way of thinking about it is actually thinking from a collector standpoint. What do they want to see? I think we see a lot of AI art at the moment, and I think that some of them are obviously AI, and I don't think that's what creators or collectors want to see more of. So I think really pushing the boundaries of what you can create with generative media and minting them on chain would be really important. I would definitely advise everyone to start thinking about the one specific use case that you're trying to build for around this, rather than just like, it's okay that you're building a canvas like the Zora canvas like feature, but how do we push that a little bit further? Like, what sort of features would you want to see? What sort of output do you want to see? And how do you actually make it so easy to mint on Zora? So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. You can actually ask a bunch of questions directly on our GitHub. So github.com/Zora/Zora/protocol. You can check out our docs on docs.zora.co. The QR code in the bottom is actually a QR code to our app on iOS. Android's coming soon. That's in the works. But we obviously, you can reach out on Zora on Firecaster. Definitely post your questions as well as your progress on Zora chat on the Zora channel on Firecaster. You can reach out to me directly. My name is Zach on Firecaster and Isaac CYN on Twitter. So there you go. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Isaac. That was great. There are a few questions in the chat. If you wouldn't mind potentially just going over them, that would be really helpful.
Okay, let me just go through thinking about a chat. How easy is it to scan the data of your asset inventory? Thinking about a chatbot to help users discover NFTs they like to, but the idea of course, it's dependent on how much your NFT. To Robert, I think it is relatively easy. I think there are API endpoints that we might be able to share that lets you discover some of these NFTs. We've seen some other teams like Interface, for example, like they would surface on mints very easily that way, and they would filter it depending on mint activity for every post. So it is possible to do that. Do you have a link for some of those, especially the second one for UI? So you could definitely check out sonk.cam, Dracula.app. Let's go with these. So I think these two are really, really, really exciting ones. Cool. How does Zora arbitrate or cope with NFTs that are no longer pinned and therefore, due to NFT bias, get reimbursed? Interesting. I don't really have a clear answer to that, just because when we work with like third-party teams, we encourage them to make sure that it's pinned on IPFS. We have instances where it's self-hosted, and that doesn't do too well on our main surface area. It might do well on your app, but then it doesn't render that well on our side. So a really good way for you to actually test to debug, you might be able to just try this every time. So this is actually an open source tool that we built where you can debug your metadata. So there's that. Alrighty. Does Zora have a grants program or a funding DAO? So we don't have a funding DAO at the moment, but we are thinking about a grants program. So besides this hackathon, obviously, we want to work on a rounds. So if you've seen rounds.wtf, we want to have an ongoing program where we would grant builders on a weekly or fortnightly basis around giving them some OP tokens to build on top of the Zora protocol. Are you aware of any Zora plus Story protocol integrations where fractional NFTs are customized? That's actually a really cool idea. I'm not aware of any Zora plus Story protocol integrations. I'd be keen to see what that looks like. So if you've got an idea, if you're chasing that idea and like creating a setup around like ownership of assets such as characters, episodes, and artifacts, that's actually quite cool. You should definitely check it out. I think another team that's also doing some sort of IP creation is actually Atomverse. So they do some really cool, Atomverse. If you look it up, they might be what you're looking for as well. So definitely a good way to check out around like IP. But if you have any ideas or like a solid project idea that you want to build with Zora and Story Protocol, I'd be keen to see how we can help with that. All right, so what version of Uniswap are you using for swaps? It's a V3. Yeah, generative media, especially with the Farcaster frame. Agreed. So generative meme launcher sounds really fun. I think the idea. So what constitutes a meme for us? If you've seen some of the horse memes, the running horse with like the rainbow kind of background, the ones that I think obviously Jacob minted that. We've seen like dolphins jumping around, like kind of like really ethereal looking memes. Those are considered memes as well. So you can make it extremely beautiful, but something that's memeable. It doesn't necessarily have to be the bell curve meme, where it's like 20 IQ versus 200 IQ. Like that's a kind of meme, but then you've got different kinds of memes. So like I would strongly suggest that you kind of push the definition of memes and how you can build a brand new experience on top of that. The other thing that's also really worth checking out is this one here around. So the other thing that's also really worth building is actually using our Sparks nomenclature. If you look at this, Sparks, where it's essentially a unit of measurement, which is 1/1,000,000th of an ETH. That's that. And then within the Zora app itself, it's actually a mint currency. You can redeem that for a mint. But why I think it's cool that you adopt this nomenclature is the fact that it makes it so human readable. So instead of it being 0.0000011 ETH, it's 111 Sparks. It's a single syllable word. Obviously, it's easy to spell, easy to say. It maps to a symbol, which is the Sparks icon. You can actually, if you right click on Zora.co, you can actually copy the Spark icon, copy the word mark, copy the logo. So that's at your disposal. We've seen teams like MoshiCam actually use Sparks. We've seen, I think, Coop Rex, so Sonata by Koopa Troopa actually is using Sparks as well. I might be wrong, but I think it is. Even if it's not, it's open for everyone on this call or the entire developer community to use Sparks as a nomenclature within your app, just so it's easier it's a better user experience in general. And the other thing that I think it's also really, really worth checking out is actually the secondary markets on-chain feature. Let me link this to everyone right now. This one's a really good example of why we decided to build on-chain secondary markets. Is essentially, this chart really captures it. This chart. So when a mint ends, we want to ensure that the viral retention has the right value assigned to it. If it's an off-chain secondary market, like what you see on some of the other off-chain marketplaces, you see a lot of lost value. So this model is actually really interesting, and we would definitely would love to see how the community of developers here on this call push this protocol to the next level with your desired app experience. To show you a really quick breakdown of how the referral fees are actually distributed to the participants within the protocol. So creators by default would get 55.5 Sparks per mint. The mint referrer, in this case, it could be you if you built a minting experience within your app. Create referrer as well, that could be your app as well when you facilitate. So but you could potentially stand to earn about 33.3 Sparks per mint if you built that experience with the comprehensive experience of collecting and minting, collecting and posting using the Zora SDK. And this market fee that you see is what actually bootstraps the liquidity pool on Uniswap, but that gets set aside. So yeah, it's completely powered by Uniswap. It's extremely easy. So the other thing that's really cool is that we most recently launched Dex Screener actually just launched support for Zora Network. So what that means is when you build on top of Zora Network, Base or Base Optimism, that if a mint on that network, if a Zora mint on that network gets a secondary market, it would technically have the ability, you would technically have the ability to just see it within um, on Dex Screener itself. So you could, so that's another advantage of actually building using that secondary market protocol feature. Uniswap v3 on all the networks you can, yeah, exactly, that's right. So Arbitrum, Blast Base, Optimism, as well as Zora Network, Uniswap v3. Cool. Does Zora have a mobile app in the Google Play Store? Not at the moment. It's something that we're working on for sure, but iOS is the main one for now. I think another way to go through this is actually checking out the Zora app itself. Really using the app and understanding what's available, because that's technically if you use the Zora app itself, you could actually see what's possible with the Zora protocol, because our app is powered by the Zora protocol. If you use the app, the actual iOS app, like that gives you a really good example of how we're abstracting away the crypto aspect of it. So we use Coinbase Smart Wallets. We've got Privy as well. So when you post, it's completely on chain, and then when you mint, you just mint with Sparks directly, and there are no third-party there are no transactions that you need to sign. So instead of a normal app where you would hit mint, and then it prompts you to open up your MetaMask on your phone, that we don't have that in the Zora app because we've got smart wallets powering the abstraction piece. So when you double tap, it's exactly like you liking a post on Instagram. So that's a UX consideration that you want to check out for sure as you build out your how you would implement your smart wallet experience on your app. Yeah. Why are OP tokens for payment? Yeah, so we're actually on the super chain. I think what we really want to do is actually just ensuring that I think Zora Network's on the super chain. Zora Network's on OP as an OP rollup. That's how we actually incentivize people to build on top of Zora, and also creators to, as long as you're building to OP, yeah. So it's the reward would be OP tokens on Optimism. That's right. But because we've got all these different other networks that we support, like Base, Zora Network, those are also on the super chain. So if you build on top of that using the Zora protocol, that also means it's fine. Are you interested in AI generative minting tools or DeFi secondary market? I think if you could combine both, that'd be cool. I think one or the other. I think AI generative minting tools, that would be amazing. I personally am a user of Midjourney. I use Midjourney probably every day, every other day, just to really for like things that I want to announce, for ecosystem stuff, or like generally on memes. So what would that look like with a minting experience? Actually, there's actually a really cool one that you should consider looking into would be, so there's this app where you have AI agents, and then the AI agents would be able to vote what asset to bring on chain. Let me just find it for you. It's actually super cool. I'm just going to link it to you all right here. So a really cool example of that is they've got the first iteration of it is them getting Greek gods. I think there's Zeus, Athena, something like that. And then every day, these Greek god agents would actually vote on what sort of weapon assets to bring on chain. So if you kind of push that idea a little bit further, that could actually even look like if you could bring the top fashion designers from the 1960s together, what would they vote to create and generate on chain? So you could potentially do something like that to generative agents for generative media, and then you mint it on chain that way. What are some live peer Zora use cases that you'd be interested? I think live streaming. I think what would you do from a live streaming perspective? I think it's more so figuring out a theme. So like Twitch obviously does an amazing stuff with gaming. I think having a theme for your live streaming app that allows people to mint directly, I think that's cool. So yeah, definitely live streaming use cases. Midjourney. Oh, they've got an app. The web app now lets you input prompts now, so that's fine. So, but Discord works, I guess, purely from a product standpoint. Like, it's so straightforward. I can get started, and then they did not have to build a prompting UI from the get-go. So I think purely from a product standpoint, that's really smart, because that it kind of solves the cold start problem, because people are already on Discord instead of downloading a new app. So I think the other way of thinking about this generative media hackathon idea is also, what if you tapped into Zora Social Graph directly? What would that look like? What if you tapped into Firecaster's Social Graph directly? What would that look like? So you can bypass the creator and collector cold start problem too. Details on social graph features. So Zora's got on-chain comments. So if you look at any of the posts, you'd see on-chain comments, and then you could actually draw some relationship between a creator and a collector that way. So that's a really, that's one of the ideas. And then also Firecaster, for example, if you could use Nana, you could use Nana directly. So when a user signs up to your app, you could prompt them to follow or like import their follows from Firecaster directly. And then maybe somehow when you post within the app itself, it gets minted on the Zora protocol, as well as an easy way for you to share it directly to the Firecaster webcast feed. So that way you can distribute on both ends. So the other thing that's really cool about Zora is that we support cross-chain minting and ERC20 mints. You could actually mint, you could accept OP tokens or higher tokens or degen tokens as a payment method. So that's a Zora.co implementation. We use Decent for that. But I think, Brooke, what you mean is within just the Zora.co on your phone. Yeah, you will have to use something like Brave and connect your MetaMask mobile wallet to it. But we use Privy, so that should be quite straightforward. You can link it directly.
Oh, that's actually a really good question.
Are you able to create that question in our protocol, and then we can get back to you on that? I don't think I have it handy with me at this point, but that's actually a really good question.
Great. Well, that was a lot of questions. Thank you, Isaac, for answering them all very greatly. If no one has anything else, I mean, if they do, they can put it on the GitHub that Isaac just shared, and I'm sure Isaac or the Zora team will be happy to help with that, or exactly contact him. Thank you all very much for coming. Today was the final workshop before the finale in a couple of weeks. So you guys now have time to build and work on your projects and submit on the 20th of October, which is very exciting. So best of luck with that. Thank you all for joining, and thank you, Isaac, for your presentation. It was great. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And yeah, we look forward to seeing what you can build. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.